देखो जूम आउट करके देखो रिकॉर्डिंग चल पड़ी जूम आउट करके जूम आउट चल रहा है
सही है. Uh, those who are interested, please come join me. I'm going to start my talk over this thing. Yeah, you can sit comfortably. You can have coffee, tea, whatsoever. I don't like someone gets sleepy. So this is a small talk, an introductory talk over Zookeeper. Basically, it's a distributed system. Yes, please settle down. Have a seat. Shall I ask for coffee or tea for you guys?
Let's start.
Okay, first thing first. First of all, who am I? You all know me. I am Tushar Khan, the platform guy. Of course, everyone knows here. Uh, right now, I'm working with Kako, of course. That is also obvious. To know more about me, you can hit this URL. It's my personal website. I mean, all my projects, my blogs are hosted over there. So let's start with the basics. I mean, before going over to Zookeeper, we should understand what a distributed system is. So can anyone define what the distributed system is? Miss Sani? I mean, any idea about distributed systems or something like that? We are using that thing.
Everything is not on one single machine.
Yeah, that you can say, of course. I mean, distributed system basically consists of set of computers, you can say, or set of servers, or set of machines, an individual computing entity that actually works together to accomplish a simple task, a single task basically. So they want to achieve a single goal, a single goal itself. So all the machines are working together, are acting as a part for the whole. So this distributed systems basically consist of several characteristics. These are the list of those characteristics. The first one is resource sharing. Of course, if your system is distributed, all the resources which is hosted or you are using should be accessible from any part of the world. A distributed system simply means one of your server is hosted in India, another will be in US, somewhere in China. I mean, it's a distributed environment, so it should be accessible. All the resources in the sense your storage, your computing power, your services, different kind of services. Like we have different services, of course, in our faculty. I'm not going to talk about that, of course. Extendability, your system. This term refers to that your system is able to extend itself in both the terms, basically hardware as well as software. Third is concurrency. This denotes number of users. More and more number of users can use your system parallelly without affecting the whole system itself. Performance and scalability. This particular characteristic must need to be there, otherwise your system will be useless. If you need not take care of these special characteristics before designing your whole complete bloody goddamn system. Fault tolerance, this denotes like if any one node of your system goes down, suppose any server of the whole complete system goes down, then it won't affect the whole system itself. Last one is abstraction through APIs. Of course, if you are an end user, you just need an API to access the whole system. You need not to worry about what is going inside the system and how you are managing the whole data itself. So system designers had designed so many different kind of distributed systems. The first one was developed by Sun Microsystems when they were working on NFS, the network file system application. They had faced different kind of policies in distributed system. Policies means bhram, like a bhram. I mean, just to be clear. So there are different kind of policies which they had already faced in 1980s or 1990s, and we are facing till right now. The first one is the network is reliable. So can anyone say that network is reliable right now? Yes, it's 101% network is not at all reliable. So you have to build a system like that it won't be like you can say dependent on the network itself. Second is latency is zero. So whenever you try to access some amount of data, like CDN networks itself, if you are accessing a data from US, so you are and the data which is generated is in India's server. It need to be transported from that location to US location. So their transportation cost will be there, of course, for sure, and the latency will be there. So this is also another kind of policy that the system designers never thought of before, like writing the whole system or designing the whole system. They didn't aware of these things before, but now we are. Bandwidth is infinite. This is also false thing. You can't say that your bandwidth is infinite. It depends upon the type of network you are using, whether it's T1, it's LAN, WAN, or any kind of mobile networks. The network is secure. You can't say that your network is secure. Of course, we are facing DDoS attack, denial of services attack, distributed denial of service attack, day by day. But we are actually improving day by day, of course. So you can say that your network is not at all secure in many different terms. Topology doesn't change. Of course, your topology keeps changing day by day. You keep adding new components and removes old components. This is how your topology gets disturbed. So your system should be designed in a way that it should handle the topology changes. There is one administrator. So how many of you think that there is only one administrator, which is Nirbhav Barat, over in here in our company itself? Anyone? I mean, if any kind of problem you guys face, you simply come to ops like this is not working, DNS is not working, this, that, app process is down, supervisor line down, or something like that. So it's actually in real-time scenario, it's not dependent on a single guy itself. There is no one administrator concept in distributed systems because we uses third-party libraries. Different kind of libraries are there. Like we use Dynex services. Sometimes their service goes down and our customers gets affected with that. So we had actually overcome that. We had introduced debounce in our code. That's good. Next is transportation cost. This I had already told. I had mentioned like every kind of cost, every kind of code you write, it actually creates an amount of cost. Whether it's in the term of CPU cycles or it's in the term of money, which actually the providers ask for or take away from us. The network is homogeneous. Network is not at all it's never homogeneous. It consists of plethora of different entities which are actually a single entity, and it acts together to combinedly to work as a whole entity. So it's not at all homogeneous. I mean, in easy term, you can say we have different set of servers around. Each and every server works on different versions of CentOS. So all the different services that we use, basically, like Supervisor D itself, I had faced different kind of problems with this particular application when we were installing this on 5.x versions of CentOS. So that's why you can say like it's homogeneous. You have Chef, you can just run Chef client and everything will be working fine. It's not like that. So that's gonna be a problem. Yes, of course, there's a whole lot of problem. We are facing lot of problems in distributed systems. Basically, platform team, of course, more rather than product and any other guys. So a brilliant intelligent design is there, which is already being proposed by the Yahoo engineers. This whole thing, Apache Zookeeper, it's actually an effort to develop a highly scalable, reliable, and robust centralized service to implement coordination in distributed applications. And for us as a developer, we can straight away utilize this centralized service itself to accomplish our different distributed tasks. Some common distributed coordination tasks are like configuration management. This had been done previously in our company. So like 2 weeks before we had synced all the configs using Chef, but this can be done via centralized service itself, like Apache Zookeeper. Naming service like DNS, of course. Distributed synchronization such as logs, queues, and barriers. Locks and queues, I think most of you already aware of these things, but barrier is something which is new, I guess, right? Anyone knows what is barrier? I mean, in terms of distributed systems. A barrier is a concept like in which you have a set of servers, set of clusters, and you want all of them to reach at a particular point and stop there unless all the servers reach there and then start the further processing. This is called a barrier. That stopping point is actually a barrier. There are certain real-time scenarios in which we have to use barriers and locks, of course. Cluster membership operations such as detection of node leave, node join. This again, what this thing means, like every cluster in your whole infrastructure knows how many clusters right now are present and available in the whole infrastructure itself. Leader election in distributed system. System actually elects or selects their own leader. It's not your, I mean, it's not us who tell the system like this is your leader and work with it. If that leader goes down, then what is it? You have to depend on manual intervention. It's not like in terms of distributed system. The systems decides their own leader. They elect on the basis of different leader election algorithms. This can be accomplished. I am going to tell you few recipes. Recipe of leader election is also there in this particular seminar. For using Zookeeper, you can actually elect the leader amongst the set of clusters or set of servers. So Apache Zookeeper was originally developed at Yahoo. One of their developer is an Indian, of course. Indians are good developers, as the world knows. There is a technical paper over it. You can hit this URL just to access the technical paper. Of course, we don't have enough time to read this particular shit. Yes, I know that. This is implemented in Java and ships with C, Java, Perl, and Python client bindings. Of course, these are official client bindings provided by the Zookeeper itself, Zookeeper community itself. But there are other community contributed languages which you can use. Of course, Golang, of which Gufran is a fan of. They are using Golang for their project, distributed coordination systems and all. You can use Scala, you can use Erlang, and so on. I'm not going to use PHP, of course, for this thing because it's not widely supported, and no one uses PHP for a distributed systems. Some more, if you want to get a list of the client bindings provided by Zookeeper, then you can hit this URL. I'm going to share this link of this whole presentation. It's basically hosted over prezi.com, where you can host your presentation slides. So basically, Zookeeper runs as a server ensemble known as Zookeeper Ensemble. So it's basically you can host this Zookeeper on a single server or a set of servers. So recommendation is you have to use at least 3 production level servers if you want to deploy your whole goddamn distributed architecture and the production. Then you have to use at least 3, and this 3 is basically odd number, and you have to follow this odd number policy. I will tell you why this policy need to be followed. And for development, you can actually host 3, 6, 7, 8, how many numbers you want. You can host on development, you can test it reliably. You just need to have different kind of configuration items for all those different ensembles. So you can test it locally also. It's not dependent like you need a test environment for testing the whole stuff. For installation, you need Java 6 or OpenJDK. OpenJDK for Unix-based systems. Java 6 or later versions need to be installed if you want to use this. Just wget the compressed file, extract it somewhere like I had extracted in user share, change that directly and export that directory location to some variable like I had used zk home. You can actually put this environment path variable inside the /etc/environment file itself, or you can also put it inside bash.rc file. What happened? Are you not getting something or something like that?
I felt an earthquake. I was checking. It's okay.
Okay. So this is just a simple installation steps and how to test it out. Is that it contains a bin directory with a set of different shell files, bash files are there, command line files are also there for Windows, for Unix based machines. This zkserver.sh is basically used to start the server, the Zookeeper service itself, and some different style. So ZK CLI is also combined with this. It's a Java-based command line interface for connecting to Zookeeper. You can use this. You just need to pass the host and the port to connect to that particular Zookeeper server, and this output what you will get. So far so good. Let's talk of the technical architecture of this whole system. Basically Zookeeper service itself. So Zookeeper service runs as an ensemble, as I had mentioned before. It contains different kind of nodes. Each and every node consists of an in-memory DB and atomic broadcast. And amongst all the nodes, there will be only one leader, and all other nodes will be treated as follower nodes. All the write requests are forwarded by the leader node, only and only leader node. Whereas read requests can be handled by the follower nodes as well. So the benefit of in-memory DB is Zookeeper becomes much more faster and much more lighter. In terms, I will tell you the data architecture of this tool and data model of this whole Zookeeper thing. It actually stores the data in Z nodes, where you can't exceed a limit of 1 MB for a single data variable on a Z node. So if we talk of the type of nodes, there are only two types of nodes which I had mentioned, like leader node and followers nodes. Write requests are basically handled by the leader node itself. It's elected internally among all the nodes of the cluster based on a specific design pattern. They chooses their own leader itself, and it's recommended to have odd number of nodes basically. So as I had mentioned, you should have to follow this thing, because like suppose a scenario is there where you are using even number of clusters or even number of nodes, like four nodes are there, out of which two nodes goes down, and we have the remaining two in our hand. So Zookeeper is not able to elect a leader out of these two, so the whole system goes down in that particular scenario. So it's just a scenario. I mean, it's in real time, it's like possibly less happens, but yes, I mean, what recommendation is there, we should have to follow that. Follower nodes, all the other nodes which are not, which are basically not a leader, is a follower node. It handles all different kind of read requests itself, and for any write request it comes to comes with this follower node, it will be redirected to the leader node itself. Like here you can see delegation of the write requests to the leader node from the follower nodes.
What are we reading and writing? क्या किस चीज़ की बात कर रहे हैं?
Actually, in this particular architecture, all these nodes share the same sort of database. It's a replicated database. So different client comes in. I will tell you, I mean, after some time you will get to know when we practically demonstrate the things. It's kind of different stuff. Even when I was reading this, it took a lot of time for me to understand the whole system. So basically there are node components too, which is mentioned in that particular pic. Request processor only active in the leader node. As you had seen, like request processor was there only with the leader node itself. It processes write request. Once done, broadcast changes to the follower node. So broadcast thing is there in this particular application. Atomic broadcast is attached with each and every node, as you had seen for the leader as well as follower nodes, and it broadcasts and receive change notification. Changes are done by the leader node itself, and notification need to be provided to all the follower nodes, so that any change happened in the whole system, every system should be each and every cluster or each and every single computing entity should be aware of that. In-memory database, it's a replicated database, as I had mentioned. Every node have its own database. Data is also written to the file system as snapshot for recoverability. What this means is, like, we can't use in-memory database all the time. Suppose for some power failures, all your data will go into the wing. So you have to keep a backup of all those stuff. So how does it do? Basically, it for every write request, in-memory DB is updated after successfully being written to the file system. The in-memory DB will only be updated once the write request is being processed, and it's being stored as a snapshot in the file system itself. You have to specify where you want to store those temporary snapshots. in your configuration files. Zookeeper data model. It's a hierarchical namespace. As you can see, it's a tree-based structure where each node called Z node have its own data and child nodes. Like these are Z nodes, and this particular node have child nodes, and it possesses a data internally with it, so that we can specify what kind of host name or what kind for which host this particular node is there. I mean, different kind of data you can store. Like for workers, we can use this. We pass it to a worker. Like we use AMQP for our normal functioning of the whole system, right? We pass messages using AMQP, a worker and a controller path. Basically, you can store those paths in this Z nodes. You can't store more than 1 MB of data in a Z node. A path is represented as a canonical absolute path and not relative. You have to pass in the whole absolute path for using a particular Z node. And Z node 2 maintains a stat structure like version for basically conditional update, access control list, and a watcher for data change notification, which can be triggered only one time. So Z nodes types, as we can see here, there are 3 Z node types, but basically there are 4. Persistent, as the name itself suggests, it exits until they are explicitly deleted. If we do not delete them, they will be there in the system for all the still the system is active. Ephemeral nodes, it gets deleted when session expires. Ephemeral nodes are very useful nodes. Basically, we can use these nodes for monitoring our different clusters by the ops team. They can use it as a monitoring tool itself, for using a few lines of code in Python. Not allowed to have children. So ephemeral nodes are not allowed to have children. Sequential can be persistent or ephemeral, sorry, it's a spelling mistake in here. So as I said, there are 4 basic type of nodes. A sequential node can be a ephemeral node or a persistent node, and it possesses a monotonic sequence counter itself, which is helpful for the synchronization purpose, for the locking mechanism and all. These sequential ephemeral nodes or sequential persistent nodes are used for that purpose, for creating barriers, for creating locks or anything else. These are the set of different kind of Zookeeper operations which you can perform over the Zookeeper service. Create, delete, exist, get children, get data, set ACL, set ACL, sync. Some small sort of, it's like a primitive what Zookeeper provides is a primitive data structure for you. Using these primitive data structure, you can create a good distributed environment, a good distributed system of your own, rather than creating the whole system from scratch and struggling with different kind of bugs or anything, network failures. Is that this thing provides that primitive part, which is helpful for our distributed environment. So it possesses watches too. Client can register for any changes associated with a Z node. It's like setting a watch. Basically, in a pull-based system, in a polling kind of system, you keep polling, running a worker, listening for the new changes. It eats some amount of resources, right? It's rather than that, we can actually in Zookeeper we can actually register a client. A client can register to a Z node and it can listen to that Z node events. There are different kind of events that can happen to that particular Z node, like children changed, node created, node data changed, or node deleted. So yeah, I know that no one is getting anything right now. But it's a primitive data structure which we had studied during engineering time, during our college times, and all. Like this is the main part. You can develop the things using different kind of tutorials available over the internet. It's not a hard thing, you know? And also 12-year-old kid can write the code, but it's the design which affects the whole body system. If a design is stable, then your whole system will be stable. If design is not that good, then you have to face that. And each and every employee will struggle with it. So it's Just it's provide. I'm just saying it's provide a primitive data structure for the whole system for the distributed environment. The read operations in the Z node such as exist, get children, and get data allow watches to be set on them. So it will be more clear if we take an example of cluster group membership model. Forget about client 2 right now. Just see client 1 is listening to Zookeeper service. Basically, client 1 had created a femoral node called host 1 under members, which is a persistent node, and it set a watch on it. As I mentioned, like get children set watches automatically when you basically gets the children of a particular node. It set a watch automatically so that it can be notified further if any other changes done to this particular node and any other children attached or delete from this particular node, then client 1 will be notified. Suppose client 2 comes in, he creates a new node called host 2 under the members persistent node. This Zookeeper service then sends a notification to the client 1 that this particular there is a new client came in and joined the cluster. So it again then sends a get children request to the members which is persistent node and gets host 1 and host 2. There are two nodes. Now we have two clusters in our hand, and it again then set a watch. It's I had previously mentioned, like it's the watch setting process will be triggered only one time. It's just a one-time process. After that, you have to reinitiate the watch process. So using this simple cluster group membership model, you can actually maintain a list of servers which is active right now on your infrastructure. Each and every server will be aware of this fact that how many clusters are alive in your infrastructure and how many are dead. You can create a simple utility to track all the services running on your system rather than using some other applications based on Python. What are those applications? Those are built on the top of such these kind of primitive things. So this was the technical architecture. Let's talk what Zookeeper guarantees. It guarantees sequential consistency. This ensures that the updates from the clients are always applied in FIFO order. It maintains the order. Like the client 1 came in and he set a watch for members node. So the person who will be notified first will be the client 1 itself. Atomicity, either your transaction will complete properly or it will fail. There will be no case for the partial commit itself. Single system image, as I had already mentioned, it's a replicated database which Zookeeper service uses. Reliability, this ensures that the updates will be persistent once they are applied. This is until they are overwritten by some other clients. So you can rely on this particular thing. Timeliness, there is a time bound basically. The client's view of the system is guaranteed to be up to date within a certain period of time. This is known as eventual consistency model. So as I had mentioned before, like I'm going to tell you a few recipes. Recipes are just like algorithms which we used to study during our engineering times. Nowadays we don't follow that, of course. We just write the code, start writing the code from the beginning and just finish it. Just make it like push it in master, merge it, deploy it, that's it. And it should be working. So, but a good algorithm is a good practice basically. It makes you more mature in terms of programming. So in this leader election recipe, how it basically does, how we can elect a leader. Let's create a Z node, say svc/election path. All participant creates a femoral sequential node under this path. So we had created a node called election path, and all other participants, all other clients basically created a femoral node under this particular path. The node with the smallest sequence number is the leader. Means we can decide a leader very easily. The node with the smallest sequence number. So the client who had joined first will going to have the smallest sequence number. I mean, you can say that it's possible, but Sometimes scenario differs, like there are already sequence numbers provided to some other nodes, so you can't say that, you can't actually say that this mine theory is true. So all the time it's not true, but of course it will work for all the times. Each follower listen to the node with the next lower sequence number. So here you can see all the followers. This is the leader right now, which possesses the lowest sequence number. All other followers are listening to the node which is like next low, which possesses the next lowest sequence number. Upon leader removal, suppose this leader goes down, uh, the whole system goes to the election again. I mean, it basically chooses an election path, find a new leader if it has the lowest sequence number or not. Upon session expiration, check the election state and go to the election again if needed. So basically, there are zookeeper sessions too. So we also have to use some kind of hybrid technologies which we are using right now with our AMQP2. So there is a session expiring in zookeeper also. Yes, yes, please.
So, when you go and create a ephemeral sequential node under a certain path, let's say me, Shivam, and Pankaj are still online, then you create them. So that gets generated in one index two. Now, when my connection dies, will they automatically replace?
Yes, they automatically choose their own leader. It's like this. The when you become the leader, the other nodes will be referencing to a to the sequential node which is like lower than their sequence node. Sequence number.
Shivam to me, Pankaj to Shivam.
Yes.
When I remove my connection, what will happen? Pankaj, Shivam was listening to me, and he was then gone.
Okay.
What does it mean?
Shivam will become the leader out of that whole system.
Okay, so is it Shivam's responsibility to create 000?
No, they had already created that node. I mean, when the system had started, all these clients created a sequential ephemeral node under this particular route. Okay, this particular path. So if the leader goes down, then all the nodes which are already present and they have a sequence number assigned to them, they can easily elect a leader node amongst them. So they need not to go for the election again in this case. A distributed exclusive lock system. Sometimes we do need distributed locking system in our environment. So using this recipe, we can easily create a distributed lock. Of course, using Zookeeper 2. Assuming there are n number of clients trying to acquire a lock. Suppose these are n number of clients, and they all wanted to lock a particular service. So client creates a ephemeral node under this particular path. This is lock node. Suppose this is a persistent node and all these nodes are ephemeral nodes. Then client requests a list of children for the lock node. This host came in, it had requested for all the children which are present in this particular lock node. The client with the least ID according to the natural ordering will hold the lock. Again, like we had chosen the leader with the least number, the node which is holding the least number, the client which is holding the least number is the leader. Similarly, it's the same thing we are using here too. The client with the least ID according to the natural order will hold the lock. Other client sets the lock with the ID immediately preceding its own ID. Like in case of leader election 2, we had seen that the other followers had started listening to the node which is like with the next sequence, lowest sequence numbers. Similarly, the same thing happens out here also. Other client sets the lock with the ID immediately preceding its own ID. It periodically then checks for the lock in case of notification. Like you are not getting notified after a small amount of time or some amount of time, then it actually checks for that. The client which releases a lock, like suppose a client is done with their task, done with his task, and now it's going to release his task. Then it deletes this ephemeral node, which triggers the next client in the line to acquire the lock. So basically, whenever some delete or create operation happens, all the clients which are connected to the system, to the centralized service, will be notified that this particular client from this cluster or this host name is being removed or had been removed. So let's play around with the Kazoo. It's a Python-based client, basically a Python-based Zookeeper client, a simple children watcher client. I'm going to demonstrate. Actually, I had already coded that thing. It's a very small script. You can see. Just 13 lines of code. It's like a base of your monitoring system. Here I had imported few libraries. Signal I had used just to pause the system to keep listening for the new events. Kazoo client to connect to a Zookeeper service. Then I had set a watch, basically a children watch. I am going to watch how many children are leaving, or right now how many children are active in the whole node. So this is the path, list my childs, and using Zoo client I am going to connect to that particular service and then start it. It's a handle. Using this handle we are going to start that thing. And ensure path is a function, is a method basically which ensures that this path must be present in on the Zookeeper service hosted in this particular location. If it doesn't exist, then it creates its own. Then we had set up the children lock over it and passed a referencing function. Basically, it's called a reference, where you can list the children's, basically the number of children present in the current scenario at that particular interval of time. So as I had shown you before, during the installation steps, you can actually export your ZK home variable in your environment itself. The same thing I do. Let me see if I can. So I'm going to use this ZK CLI, which is a Java-based command line interface for Zookeeper, and going to connect to this server, which is hosted on localhost and listening on port 2181. So I'm connected to it. Before that, let's run our small little script. So let's run that small Python script, which will create a node called list my childs, and under this list my childs we are going to listen its children's, how many children it's going to have. Right now there is no children present under this. Let's create a children under this node using that Java based command line interface for Zookeeper. So the command to create a simple node, it's like create. If you want to create a ephemeral kind of type of node, then just pass -e. If you want to create a sequential type of node, then just pass -s. So I'm going to create a ephemeral node under list my childs. As I had also mentioned that you have to pass in the full absolute path, the full canonical absolute path rather than the relative path. And after that you can pass in the data you want. Like I am just this is child. Okay, it says it had created a new child. Now let's see our function had worked or not. Yes, you can see here it had listed that a new child had came in. So like using this small little very primitive concept, you can create a whole monitoring system, and it won't take more than a day for creating that. Similarly, if I delete it, let's create few more first. See, it's currently listening, and then it's going in a pause state, listening for new events. Now let's delete few childs. See, this is how you can create. Basically, it's just a primitive level thing which I'm telling right now. It's just an introductory part of the Zookeeper. It's a big thing. Using this small little stuff, you can create a good, stable and reliable distributed infrastructure. And actually we are too happy to work on it. Actually, our platform is now going to migrate over Zookeeper after a few days or after a few months maybe. After post, this is a post launch thing, and after launching K5, when it gets stable, then we will start working on this and we will migrate over this thing. So this is it. This is what Zookeeper is. It's a base. I know not everyone had got it properly, but still it's just a primitive data structure, you can say. Just provide a primitive data structure for you guys to develop application on the top of it, and you need not to invest your much time struggling with QP like queue servers, queue management, or any kind of thing. It handle all those things, all those systems. So any questions or something like that?
Where do you think Zookeeper would be best suitable application for this?
For platform, we need to redesign apart from platform. For the configuration management, of course, and for the naming services, which I had mentioned in the first, second or third slide. Uh, for other coordination tasks, like for NFL, if you are creating a distributed file system itself, you can use this. It's a primitive, it's a base. You can use anywhere where distributed system lies. And yes, we are going to use it in platform or for product, I don't know. There are few plans, like we are going to use a simple single file system rather than creating links for each and every help desk. It's better to use a single base for them rather than linking systems. Yes, yes. Yeah, that is different from this, but still, that is exciting stuff rather than the things we are doing right now. Anything else? Well, thank you. Thank you for listening very patiently.